We are diving headfirst into a world that is just, well, it's experiencing change on a scale we really haven't seen in years.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about a huge, sweeping revamp of nearly every single melee DPS spec in the game.
I mean,
This isn't just a balance pass.
no, not at all. This is a fundamental philosophical re-engineering of how a lot of these classes actually play.
Right. And the scale here is just immense. The developers, they set out with a pretty clear mission, right?
A very clear but very challenging mission. The goal was essentially make these specs easy to approach, easy to understand, but still incredibly hard to master.
A classic design challenge.
It is. It's an attempt to redefine what complexity means in, a modern game like this.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Why this massive effort right now? This is being called the biggest shakeup since Legion.
Right.
What was the catalyst for all this?
It's a direct response to a design crutch that had been building up for years and years, reliance on combat add-ons. For nearly a decade, designers built these really complex rotations that, they basically required you to download third-party software.
Like those aura tracking weak ores.
Exactly. Just to manage your stacks, your procs, the timing of crucial buffs.
So if you didn't install that external software, you were just at a huge disadvantage. You couldn't play the class properly.
You couldn't play it efficiently, no. So Blizzard is drawing a hard line here, saying they can't rely on these external tools for core gameplay flow.
And the solution is this massive pruning and consolidation.
Right. Internalizing the complexity into, say, resource puzzles, rather than just tracking a bunch of auras on your screen.
And the result of that radical surgery is what we're here to analyze today. Which specs emerged as the clear winners?
And which ones kind of suffered an identity crisis?
And who managed to gain that crucial player control, but maybe sacrificed a little bit of their soul to get there? All right, let's jump straight to the success stories. These are the specs that didn't just survive the pruning, they really doubled down on their core fantasy and came out better.
And we have to start with the Unholy Death Knight.
The melee necromancer.
The definitive melee necromancer, yeah. This is, I think, an undeniable winner, and it's mostly because of what they got rid of.
The festering wounds mechanic.
That truly frustrating festering wounds mechanic.
Yeah.
It was this mandatory, punishing minigame where you had to track wound stacks with a weak aura.
Apply them with one button, pop them with another.
Just to stack a temporary strength buff and get your damage rolling. It was, exhausting.
It sounds like complexity for complexity's sake.
It really was.
Yeah.
Now, that entire aura tracking minigame is just gone. The new core gameplay is all about the necromancer fantasy.
Grazing your undead horde.
Raising and exploding your horde.
Yeah. So what's the new loop then, if the wound popping is gone?
It's all about ghouls, with these really elegant cascade effects. Festering Strike applies Blight, Scourge Strike summons a lesser ghoul,
Okay.
and then you press Putrefy, and those ghouls just explode. And this triggers a whole talent cascade that rewards you with stacking haste and other effects.
So it's visual, it's satisfying, and you don't need an add-on to track it.
Exactly. It's all right there. And they streamline the cooldowns, too. Apocalypse, Unholy Assault, they're gone. And, maybe most importantly,
That quality of life change?
Dark Transformation is now off the global cooldown.
Oh, that's huge. That speeds up the start of a fight so much.
Massively. You aren't wasting seconds just buffing your pet before you can even do damage. You're the master of the undead, and you're sending them to war instantly.
The fantasy is just crystal clear now.
It is. The only tiny quibble is that Death and Decay lost almost all its interactions. It's just a basic slow now. But the core spec is so strong, it really doesn't matter.
Speaking of streamlined, let's talk about the next clear winner. Enhancement Shaman.
Yes. Before this, Enhancement was the absolute poster child for complexity overload.
I remember people calling it the 11 trillion buttons spec.
And that wasn't an exaggeration. It had that, plus this almost invisible resource, Maelstrom Weapon, that didn't always track right on the default UI.
And the irony of being a melee spec that did a ton of its damage from ranged spells.
A dizzying, unhinged experience without a full third-party UI. It was a mess.
So the developers brought in the bulldozer.
They did. Remove 6 buttons, 3 damage, 3 utility like Ice Strike and Hailstorm. But the key here is that this was consolidation, not just pruning for the sake of it.
That's the important distinction.
It is. Maelstrom Weapon is now the undisputed central resource. It's more visible, it's more reliable, everything feeds into it, and everything spends it.
And they've created those two clear paths, right? Lightning or lava.
Exactly. Highly synergized talent paths that both revolve around that core resource. You're not trying to play 4 different roles at once anymore.
Give us an example of that synergy in action.
Okay, take Sundering. It used to be just another physical hit. Now there's an upgrade called Primordial Storm that eats your Maelstrom weapon stacks for this colossal resource-powered hit.
Ah, so it links the physical side with the resource side?
It elegantly binds them into one really satisfying button press.
The result is a fast spec that's still proc-driven, but it's now coherent.
That's the word. A normal player without add-ons could actually look at this and figure out the flow, which was, basically impossible before. It's a clear winner.
Okay, now we're moving into more controversial territory, the qualified successes,
Right, the specs that gained a lot of player control, but maybe at a cost.
where some people will love the changes and others might really miss the old way.
And Retribution Paladin is the perfect case study for this. The philosophy was simple: get rid of the randomness, maximize player control.
So they took away the passive stuff, like divine hammers generating free holy power.
Exactly. They want you to be the one making every single resource decision. No freebies.
Which brings us to the biggest and maybe most controversial change. Removing Hammer of Wrath as its own button. Why did that cause such a stir?
Because Hammer of Wrath wasn't just another damage button. It was the emotional climax of the Paladin fantasy. That big, flashy execute.
Hitting it at the right time during your wings cooldown just felt amazing.
Incredibly satisfying. Now it's baked into the judgment button during wings. It's elegant. It saves a keybind.
But you lose that unique feeling.
You do. You lose that punitive, exhilarating execute. And it actually hurts your execute damage a little bit. It's a trade.
And the trade is for consistency.
Full clockwork control over your holy power. You're now constantly pressing Templar Strike to build your resources. Randomness is out. A predictable rhythm is in.
A success then, but it depends entirely on if you value that reliability over the big flashy moments.
Exactly. Now let's look at rogues, starting with assassination. Their big pain point was being so reliant on stealth in the middle of a fight.
Right, having to use Vanish just to get your bleeds on multiple enemies, it was so clunky.
That taxing requirement is gone. The surgery here was a success. Crimson Tempest now automatically spreads your Garrote and Rupture from the main target.
So no more mandatory stealth for your AoE.
None. And Shiv is gone from the rotation too.
So it's less punishing, but did they keep the skill ceiling high? Does it still feel like a rogue?
They absolutely did. They shifted the focus to energy management. Your baseline regen is lower now, so the new talent tree rewards really surgical tight play.
Good energy pooling and precise execution.
Right. It's cohesive, it's less punishing, but the skill ceiling is still way up there. A clear qualified success.
Okay, but what about Outlaw Rogue? This one feels like the best example of gaining approachability while losing some soul.
The casino closed its high-stakes table, yeah.
Roll the Bones defined that spec for so long, all those complex, unique buffs.
It was a slot machine. For anyone who doesn't know, getting a bad roll meant you had to re-roll potentially multiple times, wasting tons of resources.
Yeah.
It demanded constant weak aura vigilance.
The volatility was its identity, though. You'd get a great roll and feel like a god.
Or a terrible one and feel useless. Now, that complexity is gone. Roll the Bones is much simpler, fewer bonuses, all based on a number. You don't need an add-on to tell you when to re-roll.
And they took away the need to time Vanish perfectly for procs. It's more reliable.
It is a clear win for approachability, no doubt. But you can't help but feel a little sad. That unique, high-stakes pirate feel. It's been sanded down.
So better for most players, but at a cost to its unique character.
That's the trade-off. Finally, Feral Druid. This is a really close call.
Because the pruning was so intense.
Massive losses here. Blood Talons, Adaptive Swarm, Brutal Slash, and most importantly, Snapshotting.
Ah, snapshotting. The signature feral skill ceiling. Forcing you to time your bleeds perfectly with short damage buffs.
It rewarded inhuman precision, but was incredibly punishing. With all that gone, the spec was left embarrassingly basic and single target, just managing energy and bleeds.
But it got a lifeline.
A brand new ability called Chomp. And Chomp is the game changer. It hits like a truck, but there's a catch.
You can only use it when you're low on energy, under 30.
Right. And that's fascinating. The skill is no longer about tracking external buffs. It's about precise internal resource management.
It creates a new kind of puzzle.
Exactly. A unique optimization puzzle. You have to plan your energy pooling every 20 seconds. It preserves that predatory, timing-sensitive feel. Without Chomp, Feral would be a massive loser. With it, it's a qualified success.
So we've seen the good and the complicated, but now we have to talk about the strugglers.
Yeah, the specs where the changes feel rushed, frustrating, or just clash with their core identity.
And we have to start with Havoc Demon Hunter, the Fury Crisis.
Havoc was supposed to be simple and fast, but they removed abilities like Fell Barrage and Sigil of Flame without any real replacements.
The core problem, though, is the resource generation.
They gutted it. Fellblade gives less than half the fury it used to and no longer resets.
So they put the brakes on the one spec that's designed to always be moving forward.
You nailed it. Instead of feeling like this hyper-caffeinated menace, you're just left standing there, auto-attacking.
Which creates that miserable downtime. The worst possible thing for a simple rotation.
And to make it worse, you're now relying on, like, 3 separate layers of RNG just to scrape together enough fury to press your buttons. It's a clear loser. The frustration just went through the roof.
All right, next up, Arms Warrior. They solved the old problem. The weak are a nightmare.
They did. The cognitive load is much lower. But in its place, they created a kind of identity crisis.
It feels like 2 different design teams worked on it.
It's so strange. They combined Colossus Smash with Warbreaker, which is a good, clean consolidation.
But then they messed with the bleeds.
Yeah, Mastery is just flat damage now. Deep Wounds, which was the core bleed mastery, is now a capstone talent way off in the tree. The whole bleed fantasy feels fractured.
And the AoE kit is the biggest point of confusion. Rend is AoE now, but Thunderclap is still there.
And Thunderclap still spreads Rend. Why do you need a button to spread an ability that's already AoE?
It's 2 buttons doing the same job.
Exactly. It's button bloat they were supposed to be pruning. It feels like these leftover mechanical artifacts from different design ideas.
So, a loser.
Yeah.
The core is okay, but it's just incoherent.
Incoherent and frustrating. But the most glaring example of a mismatched mashup has to be Survival Hunter.
Oh boy.
You start with this rugged, Rexar dual-wielding fantasy, and then suddenly you're pulling out a shotgun called Boomstick and tossing flame grenades.
The mechanics just don't fit together at all, and there are serious flaws.
Absolutely. They removed Butchery and replaced it with Flame Fang Pitch, a ground-targeted AoE. And crucially, it has no targeted option.
Meaning if the tank moves the mob, which they always do,
You lose all your damage, you have to constantly reposition it, you're trying to be a close-quarters fighter who's being punished by Grand Effect maintenance. It makes no sense.
we have to give them credit for the good bones, though. The core loop of stacking Tip of the Spear for Raptor Strike is solid.
The core loop is good, yeah, and the new takedown ability is great, but nothing else in the kit interacts with it. The Wildfire Bombs just feel tacked on.
It feels massively unfinished.
It's a complete loser.
Yeah.
It feels like a Frankenstein's monster of ideas from different places that were never properly stitched together.
You know, looking across this whole landscape, we have to appreciate the incredible speed of these changes. Blizzard admitted they did all this in just a few months.
Which is astonishing.
It is. And, that being said, most of the specs did meet that goal of being more approachable while keeping a skill cap.
It was a massive undertaking, and yeah, the result is a mixed bag of elegance and disaster. But the main trend is clear.
The trade-off.
The trade-off between that external add-on-driven complexity and true internal player control. We're moving to a world where your performance is about what you see on your action bars, not what you've customized in a third-party UI.
The complexity isn't gone, it's just shifted. It's no longer about tracking 5 different auras. It's about solving these resource and timing puzzles like Farrell's Chomp. Which leaves us with the big picture question for you, the listener, to really think about. After seeing all these revamps, what's actually better for the long-term health of the game? Is it the specs that are fundamentally simplified, like Outlaw Rogue, that lost a bit of its unique soul but gained universal accessibility? Or are you better off with the highly complex specs that risked falling apart because of rushed, mismatched mechanics, like Survival Hunter?
That's a tough question.
The pursuit of accessibility is commendable, but the cost, in some cases, was either character identity or just basic mechanical function.